Every empire makes the same mistake. That unfortunate belief that its power, its wealth, its gold will last forever. But history tells us the opposite. Sometimes those massive fortunes disappear overnight, sometimes in a matter of hours. And that's exactly what happened in Russia in 1917. Just imagine. In the early 1910s, one of the largest piles of gold on Earth sat in Russia's hands, over 1,200 tons of it. Back then, this wasn't just wealth, it was credibility, because money, at its core, was tied to gold. People trusted the ruble because there was real metal behind it, endless Russian gold. The state could borrow easily, fund its army, and import goods from abroad. From the outside, everything looked solid. Then the war began. When World War I broke out, Russia threw everything it had into the front lines. Millions of soldiers, tons of ammunition, massive logistics. But it came at a cost. And that cost was paid in gold. Reserves started melting away quickly. And it still wasn't enough. So the government began printing money. Money with no real backing. What happened next was predictable. Prices skyrocketed. Bread became expensive. Wages couldn't keep up. People began to go hungry. The streets grew restless. Strikes, uprisings, even soldiers turning against the system. And in 1917, it all collapsed. The Tsar was overthrown. 300 years of Romanov rule came to an end. The provisional government that replaced it was already struggling to stand. But the real question was this. What would happen to all that gold? The answer wasn't simple. Some of it was rushed east, deep into Siberia. Train after train filled with crates, guarded by soldiers whose loyalties were no longer certain. Some of it was sent abroad, to London, to Paris, as collateral for loans. But a large portion of it simply vanished. It truly vanished. When the Bolsheviks took power in October 1917, what they inherited was only a fragment of that former wealth. They immediately started using what was left. Because ideology doesn't feed people, it doesn't win wars. They sold gold, bought weapons, bought food, made deals with Germany. But there was a huge gap. Hundreds of tons were missing. Some of it fell into the hands of the White Army during the Civil War, especially in Siberia, where Kolchak controlled a massive gold reserve. At one point, he's believed to have held nearly 500 tons. But that didn't last long. When the Bolsheviks captured him, most of the gold was gone. So where did it go? There's no definitive answer. Some was stolen through corruption, some was traded for weapons, some was simply looted, and according to some accounts, entire trains filled with gold disappeared into the Siberian wilderness, buried, hidden, never seen again. There are even stories that some of it was dumped into Lake Baikal. And then there's the external side of the story. At the time, Britain, France, and Japan all had a military presence in Russia. There are serious claims that they seized gold shipments under the pretext of securing debts. Even the United States didn't escape these accusations. But one thing is certain. By the 1920s, that massive mountain of gold was gone. What remained was just a shadow. And who paid the price? As always, the people. The ruble collapsed, inflation exploded. People carried sacks of money just to buy bread. Eventually, money itself became meaningless. People turned to barter. Food for clothing, labor for food. An empire that once commanded vast wealth became a society that no longer trusted its own currency. And the truth is, this story isn't unique to Russia. We saw the same thing in Rome. They debased their currency. We saw it in Germany. They printed money and the system collapsed. In Russia, the gold physically disappeared. Different method, same outcome. Once trust is gone, everything goes with it. And here's the most striking part. During this collapse, some people lost everything, while others became incredibly wealthy. Bankers, traders, middlemen. Those who bought Russian gold at a discount made fortunes. Even as the system fell apart, there were winners. Just like in every crisis. By the mid-1920s, the Soviets had regained control, but it was too late. Out of the original 1,200 tons, perhaps only 300 remained. The rest had been sold, stolen, or simply lost. And this is where the real point begins. Why does this story still matter today? Because nothing has really changed. Today, countries still accumulate reserves, still stockpile gold, still project power through it. And today, money still depends on trust. And when that trust breaks, we already know what happens. In recent years, hundreds of billions of dollars in Russian reserves have been frozen. This is simply the modern version of the same story. Back then, they seized gold trains. Today, they freeze digital accounts. The logic is the same. Money isn't just economics, it's power. And once again, ordinary people pay the price. There are a few clear lessons here. First, paper money and real value are not the same thing. Second, crises are when wealth changes hands. Third, whoever controls money controls the system. Russia believed its gold made it secure, but within a few years, that security was gone. Today, most people believe their savings are safe, in banks, in funds, in accounts. But all of it depends on one thing: trust. And history makes one thing very clear. When that trust breaks, what you think is wealth can vanish instantly. History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. That's what happened in 1917. And this is not just a story of the past.